Hi, my name is Alex Pazziali, and this video is my nomination for my father, Ross Russo, also known as Pops, to be inducted into the New York Jets Fan Hall of Fame for the class of 2025. But before I could talk to you about Ross Russo, the fan, I'd like to tell you about Ross Russo, the man. My father was born in Brooklyn, New York, and he told me as a young boy into his teen years, he played organized football with the local park leagues. Upon graduating from high school, he enlisted in the U.S. Navy and he served his country. When he returned from his obligation to the Navy, he started his career as a plumber. He still loved football and he followed it on a collegiate and professional level. When the AFL came into existence and then the Titans and the Jets, he became an instant fan, and he's been a fan since day one. So I'd like to point out that Pops is not my biological father. My mom had gotten divorced when I was 5 or 6 and started dating Ross when I was about 8 or 9 years old. Eventually, they got married, and there was never a doubt that he was my father and I was his son. The word step was never there. We never even acknowledged each other as stepfather or stepson. It was father and son. But as a young boy, we had nothing in common, or I thought we had nothing in common. But on Sundays, when he'd come over for Sunday dinner, he'd watch football. He'd watch the Jets root for the Jets, and I started watching it. And I started asking questions over and over again, and he would answer it, very patient and whatnot. And eventually, um, those questions I asked got me to learning the game and knowing the game. So my questions turned into conversations, and we started bonding that way. And I'd like to also point out why we called him Pops. So he went gray, probably in his 40s, so he always looked older than what he was. Um, and he was always probably one of the oldest in the family. But also, he was a father figure, and not just to me, but for his nieces and nephews, and to neighbors. They weren't friends; they were family. And he was always a father figure to them. So the name Pops always stuck. Friends and family called him Pops. I called him Pops. My children called him Pops. So about 35 years ago, we started attending games on a regular basis, and for the first 5, 6 years, we never missed a game. But Pops had health ailments, a lung ailment and a heart ailment, and he couldn't walk more than 20 feet at a time without stopping and having to catch his breath and relax. So, due to that, we would get to the stadium 5 hours, 4.5 hours prior to kickoff, get the closest ADA spot to our gate, so it would minimize his walk. Now, from where we would park to our seats, for somebody who wasn't sick, probably a 6 to 10 minute track to get through the tickets and to get to your seats. It would take us probably 35 to 40 minutes. As time went on, as stubborn as he was, as proud as he started using a scooter where we would sit in ADA assigned seats as well because he didn't want to miss games. And he only missed a few games. In '98, he had a severe case of bronchitis that compounded on his lung ailment. He missed the last regular season game. He was bedridden for 2 weeks, but he didn't miss the playoff game. He made sure he was at that playoff game in '98 against Jacksonville. A few years later, maybe not a few years later, a handful of years later, he was having bypass surgery about 3 or 4 days before Sandy had hit the East Coast. He was then transported to another hospital to evacuate due to damage from Sandy. He developed complications, was in a coma for 2 weeks. The whole ordeal, he was out of his home for about a month. He's released to come back home, and it's the week of Thanksgiving, and we're going to visit him, and we're going to see him, and he tells me, "What are you doing Thursday? Are you going to the game?" And I'm like, "You just got out of the hospital. I think I should be here with you. We should be together." And he looks at me and he goes, "Go." And I said, "I'm going to go, but nobody's going to want to go with me." He goes, "Go. You have to go to the game." I said, "Okay." And as time went on and he kept missing or not being able to go to other games, I started taking my daughters. And my daughters, like my father, um, with me, started asking me questions, and I was able to help them. And then, like we would do when I was growing up, and as an adult, we'd have Sunday dinner together and watch the games, and then they started asking him questions. And it eventually turned into conversation. And my girls, right now, know every little bit about this game and about this team because of my father and for myself. So the traditions that my father and I had of going to the draft, or actually watching the draft on TV because they didn't do draft parties back then, training camp, home games, attending the home games, away games, being together. If we weren't together, calling each other. We do that now, and we did it when my father was able to go to the games as well. If we're looking at the schedule, we'll see our home games. We don't plan anything around the home games. We know when we want to go to Florham Park. We'll plan summer vacations around going to training camp, and of course, we go to the draft parties now. So all of that, all the bonding I did with my father growing up, and the traditions we built, my girls took on, and now it's three generations, and I just think it's great, and I think it's wonderful, and it's something that we love. A few years ago on New Year's Day, we lost Pops. The next day, ironically, the Jets were playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady. And the one thing Pops loved and enjoyed more than winning was when we won and we beat Tom Brady. But as a family, we decided that we should not be going to that game. We should be together with Mom for support and to help her. So for that home game, we did not go. Those seats, Pops' seat was left empty. But at home, like we would when we didn't attend the game or they were away, we watched the game together as a family. And there was a seat that I set up in our family room, in our jet room, with Pops' shirt on it. And we felt his presence there. We still feel his presence all the time. But when we go to the games or we're watching the games, we know he's watching it and rooting on the Jets with us.